My husband canceled my invite to his brother's wedding. What he didn't know was that I own the entire luxury resort chain where it was being held. Stay with me as I share this story. If it speaks to you, I'd love if you could support our channel with a like, a subscribe, and maybe even share it with someone who needs to hear it. My name is Isabel, and for a long time, I believed I had a good, solid marriage. Tyler, my husband, was the kind of man people described as dependable, charming in public, and easy to get along with. When we first married, I felt lucky, like I had found a partner for life. I was quiet, not flashy, and I thought maybe that balance worked well with his louder, more outgoing personality. From the outside, everything seemed fine. We had a home, dinners with friends, and a routine that felt steady. But underneath that, there were little cracks I didn't pay attention to at first. Tyler had this habit of brushing off my achievements, like they weren't that important. Whenever people asked me what I did, I'd start to explain, but he'd cut in with something like, "Oh, she just handles a few investments," or "she keeps herself busy." I laughed it off then, telling myself it didn't matter what anyone else thought. But it did matter. Over time, those small dismissals added up. I worked hard, but Tyler acted like my work was invisible. Still, I stayed silent, thinking that's what it meant to be a supportive wife. Letting him shine, letting him lead. I told myself we were a team, even if sometimes it didn't feel like one. I thought marriage was about compromise, about patience, about love strong enough to carry through the moments when things weren't perfect. So, I let myself believe in the picture we showed everyone else. I told myself he cared. I told myself I was happy. Looking back now, I realize how much I ignored. I see how often I put his comfort ahead of my own dignity. I see how blind I was to the way he truly saw me. Not as his equal, not even as his partner, but as someone he could push aside when it suited him. This story isn't just about a canceled wedding invitation. It's about betrayal, the kind that eats away at you slowly, until one day you're staring at the truth and wondering how you missed it for so long. And it's about revenge, the kind that doesn't come from anger alone, but from reclaiming your worth after someone tried to strip it away. That's what I'm here to tell you. How a woman like me, who thought she was living a simple, quiet life, found out her husband didn't value her, and how I reminded him, and everyone else, exactly who I was. I grew up in comfort, but I never liked to show it. My parents built a fortune in the hospitality business, and when they passed, I inherited everything. It wasn't just money, it was responsibility. I took over the resorts they left behind and worked quietly, expanding them, modernizing them, and eventually running one of the most respected luxury resort chains in the country. But I did all of it under my mother's last name, Rodriguez. To the world, Isabel Rodriguez was a successful businesswoman. To my husband, Tyler, I was just Isabel, his wife who managed some investments. I never corrected him. Part of me liked the privacy, the idea that he loved me for me and not for the name or wealth I carried. But I also noticed how easily he accepted the simple version of my story, as if he didn't want to imagine I could have power or status of my own. Tyler's family, on the other hand, never gave me the benefit of the doubt. From the beginning, I could feel their judgment. His brother, Chase, made it the most obvious. Chase had this smug way of looking me up and down, like he was measuring me and always finding me lacking. He would make comments, too, sarcastic little digs about my cheap taste or quiet personality. At family dinners, he'd joke that Tyler had settled for the safe choice, instead of chasing someone glamorous. Everyone laughed, except me. Tyler's mother, Barbara, wasn't much better. She was polite in the way people are when they don't really like you. She'd smile at me but then talk right over me. Whenever I tried to join in conversations, she'd turn her attention elsewhere. There were times I found out about family events after they had already happened, barbecues, birthday dinners, little gatherings. When I asked Tyler why I wasn't included, he shrugged and said, "You know how my mom is. She just forgets sometimes." But I knew she didn't forget. I wasn't welcome. The hardest part wasn't their treatment. It was Tyler's silence. He almost never defended me. When Chase made cruel jokes, Tyler laughed along. When Barbara dismissed me, Tyler changed the subject. If I complained later, he'd say, "Don't take it so seriously. They don't mean anything by it." He called it keeping peace, but to me, it felt like betrayal. I started to see the pattern more clearly over time. I wasn't just left out of conversations. I was left out of the family. They wanted to make sure I knew I wasn't one of them. And every time Tyler let it slide, I felt the distance between us grow. I kept quiet, hoping things would change, but deep down I knew the truth. To his family, I would never be good enough. And to Tyler, keeping them happy mattered more than standing by me. It was a quiet evening when Tyler finally mentioned it. We were sitting at the kitchen table, him scrolling through his phone, me sipping tea. Almost casually, he said, "Oh, by the way, Chase and Amanda set a date. The wedding's going to be in Colorado, at some luxury resort up in the mountains." My heart lit up. A wedding felt like a chance, a fresh start with his family. I smiled and asked questions, already picturing the snowy peaks and candlelit receptions. I thought maybe if I showed up dressed beautifully, warm and kind, they might finally see me differently. They might finally accept me. What Tyler didn't realize, of course, was that the very resort he mentioned belonged to me. It was one of the crown jewels of my chain, renowned for its breathtaking views and flawless service. But since Tyler had no idea about my ownership, he spoke of it like it was just another expensive venue out of our reach. I didn't correct him. I kept my little secret close, the way I always had. At first, he seemed fine when I expressed my excitement. I started talking about travel arrangements, what I might wear, how it could be a good opportunity to spend more time with his family. But the more I spoke, the quieter Tyler grew. He didn't smile, didn't add to the conversation, just nodded half-heartedly and changed the subject. Over the next few days, I noticed how strangely he avoided the topic. When the mail came with a fancy-looking envelope, he tucked it into his office drawer without showing me. When he got calls from his family, he'd step into another room, lowering his voice. It was subtle, but I could feel it, the tension, the secrecy. Something wasn't right. Then one evening, I walked past his office and heard his voice through the door. He was on the phone, and though he tried to keep it low, I caught enough to make my stomach twist. Chase's voice was faint but clear enough. "Look, she doesn't fit in, Ty. She's not family material. Amanda doesn't want her there either. It's better if Isabel just sits this one out." I froze, waiting for my husband to defend me, to say something, anything. But instead, I heard him sigh. "Yeah, I get it. I'll handle it." That was it. No protest. No hesitation. Just agreement. I stood there in the hallway, numb, listening to the man I thought was my partner agree to erase me from his brother's wedding, like I was some unwanted outsider. My heart pounded in my chest, but my mind felt strangely still. For years, I had accepted the small dismissals, the subtle insults. But this was different. This wasn't just his family cutting me out. It was my husband choosing not to fight for me. And in that moment, the excitement I had felt about the wedding dissolved into something darker. A mix of hurt, anger, and a quiet, rising determination. Tyler waited until the weekend to finally bring it up. We were sitting in the living room, the television humming in the background, when he cleared his throat like he had rehearsed what he was about to say. His voice was too calm, too careful. "Isabel," he began, "about Chase's wedding. I need to tell you something." I looked at him, already feeling the weight of his hesitation. My hands tightened in my lap as he went on. "You're not invited," he said flatly, as though ripping off a bandage. "It's going to be family only, and they really want to keep things simple. Amanda feels it would be uncomfortable if you came. They don't want any drama." The words hit me like a punch. Not invited. Uncomfortable. Drama. This was supposed to be my husband's family, and instead of welcoming me, they were shutting the door in my face. And worse, he wasn't even resisting. He was delivering their rejection as if it were some reasonable decision. I tried to process it, but the sting was too sharp. "So I'm not family?" I asked, my voice trembling. Tyler shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "It's not like that, Isabel. You know how Chase is. And Amanda, she's just particular. I don't want to start any fights. It's only one weekend. Maybe it's best if you stay home. Honestly, you could use the time to relax. Catch up on your reading, go to the spa or something. Relax." As though being excluded from his brother's wedding, from the people who were supposed to be mine too, was some kind of vacation. As though my pain could be smoothed over with a bubble bath. I stared at him, my chest burning with disbelief. He wasn't fighting for me. He wasn't standing up to his brother or his mother or his soon-to-be sister-in-law. He was choosing the easy way out, choosing them over me. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. I could hear the faint tick of the clock on the wall, every second dragging the truth deeper into me. This wasn't just about a wedding invitation. It was about loyalty, respect, and love, or in this case, the absence of all three. My heart broke in that moment. All the years of swallowing their comments, all the times I told myself Tyler would defend me one day, that he would finally see what his silence did to me. It all crumbled. He had chosen his family's comfort over my dignity. But as quickly as the heartbreak came, something else followed. A fire, sharp and steady, rose inside me. If they wanted me invisible, if they thought they could erase me so easily, they were about to learn how wrong they were. I didn't say much that night. I let Tyler think I had accepted it. But deep inside, my anger was already turning into resolve. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. What Tyler didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the very place Chase had chosen for his wedding belonged to me. That luxury resort in Colorado, the one they spoke about like it was some grand, untouchable venue, was just one of many in the chain I ran. It was mine, from the land it stood on to the staff uniforms carefully designed with my initials stitched into the inside lining. Every chandelier, every polished marble floor, every sweeping mountain view, it was part of my world. Tyler had no idea. He had always believed me when I said I just managed a few investments. I never corrected him, never told him about the late nights making deals, the board meetings where I had the final say, or the quiet pride I carried when I saw my resorts at the top of travel lists. I had chosen to stay quiet, thinking it kept our marriage simple, thinking love mattered more than status. But now, as I sat alone after he told me to relax at home, that silence felt like a weapon turned against me. He didn't see me, didn't value me, because I had allowed him to think there was nothing to see. That was about to change. I picked up my phone and called one of my senior managers, a woman who had been with me for years. She answered on the second ring, her voice full of respect. "Mrs. Rodriguez, how can I help you?" Just hearing the way she addressed me reminded me of who I was. I wasn't some cast-off wife, not some outsider his family could dismiss. I was the owner, the decision-maker, the one who signed every paycheck in that resort. I asked for a full report on the wedding arrangements. Guest lists, catering menus, suite bookings, everything. She walked me through it detail by detail, confident that everything was in perfect order. Chase and Amanda would be receiving the finest service, the kind only my resorts could provide. "Make sure everything goes smoothly," I told her. "This wedding will be remembered." And as I said the words, a quiet edge slipped into my voice. Because while they were busy plotting to erase me, I was already writing my own role into their story. I wasn't going to storm in angrily or make a scene out of desperation. That wasn't my style. Instead, I would move carefully, with the same precision I had used to build an empire. They wanted me gone, but I would be there, present in every hallway, every suite, every detail they took for granted. I had built that resort for people to feel like royalty. And now it would become the stage for my own reminder to Tyler and his family. You cannot erase someone who owns the ground you're standing on. They thought they could exclude me. But this time, I wasn't just attending. I was taking control. The morning Tyler left for the wedding, he barely looked at me. His suitcase was by the door, his suit pressed and hanging neatly. As he grabbed his keys, he gave me a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Don't be upset, Isabel," he said casually, like he was doing me a favor. "It's just family. You'll have the house to yourself. Maybe take a bubble bath, order in, and relax. I'll be back before you know it." His tone was smug, almost dismissive, like I should be grateful he had given me a free weekend. I stood there silently, watching him walk out, my heart heavy but my mind sharper than ever. He thought I would sit at home while they all celebrated together. He had no idea where I'd be going next. A few hours later, I boarded a flight to Colorado. My staff had already arranged everything. When I arrived at the resort, the familiar sight of its towering glass windows and snow-capped mountains brought a strange comfort. This place wasn't just a resort. It was my achievement, my identity. And today, it would also be my shield. The moment I stepped through the private entrance, staff greeted me with warmth and respect. "Welcome back, Mrs. Rodriguez," one of the managers said with a smile. They moved quickly, ensuring my bags were handled, my suite prepared, and my requests noted. Every gesture reminded me of the position I held here, a position Tyler and his family could never strip from me. But I wasn't here to flaunt it. Not yet. I told them to keep everything discreet. No public announcements, no unnecessary attention. For now, I wanted to be invisible, watching from the shadows. From the balcony of my suite, I saw the guests arriving. Luxury cars pulled up one after another, unloading women in designer gowns and men in tailored suits. Among them were Barbara, Chase, and finally Tyler. They looked so happy together, their laughter echoing in the crisp mountain air. Barbara fussed over Chase's tie, Amanda clung to his arm with excitement, and Tyler, my husband, stood with them like he was exactly where he belonged. And me? I wasn't even supposed to exist in their world. I watched as they moved into the lobby, the kind of scene that would make a perfect family portrait. No one seemed to notice my absence. No one seemed to care. That hurt more than I expected. For years, I had convinced myself that if I tried harder, smiled more, stayed patient, they would see me as part of the family. But standing there in my own resort, looking down at their carefree faces, I finally understood. They never intended to let me in. The betrayal burned deeper than ever. Not only had Tyler excluded me, but he did it with ease, with laughter, as if I was a burden lifted off his shoulders. He thought I was at home, invisible. But I was right here, closer than he could imagine, waiting for the perfect moment. I hadn't planned to see Amanda before the wedding, but fate has a way of arranging moments you don't expect. I was walking through one of the quieter corridors of the resort, reviewing some notes with a manager, when I spotted her standing near the lounge. She was alone, adjusting the strap of her dress and looking more nervous than I'd ever seen her in public. For a moment, I considered walking past. After all, Amanda was one of the reasons I had been uninvited. But something inside me shifted. I wanted her to see me, not the version of me they painted in their family stories. "Hi, Amanda," I said softly. She turned, clearly surprised. "Oh, Isabel," she stammered. Her eyes darted around, almost like she was checking if anyone could see us. I didn't realize you were here." I smiled, calm and steady. "That's because no one told you the truth. This resort you're getting married in, it's mine. I own it. Every last detail, from the chandeliers to the wine list, was approved by me." Her mouth fell open. For a second, she looked like she thought I was joking. But when the manager at my side respectfully addressed me as Mrs. Rodriguez, the reality sank in. Amanda's expression shifted from shock to something closer to embarrassment. "You own this place?" she whispered. "Yes," I said firmly. "And more just like it. But Tyler never cared enough to tell you, or his family. He always preferred the version of me that sounded small." Amanda glanced down, her hands twisting together nervously. She hesitated, then said something that made my stomach turn. "Isabel, I need to be honest with you. I didn't think you should come because, well, Chase and Tyler told me things. They've been saying you're kind of useless, that you don't really do anything. Tyler always laughed that you're just a housewife with no ambition." The words cut deeper than any blade could. Useless. Just a housewife. They had been mocking me, turning me into a joke behind my back. And it wasn't strangers doing this. It was my husband and his brother, the very people who were supposed to respect me. Amanda looked guilty as she spoke, almost as if she regretted admitting it. "I thought maybe it was just brothers teasing, but hearing you now, it doesn't sound fair." I didn't realize. My heart clenched with hurt, but in that same breath, something inside me hardened. The Isabel who had endured years of silence and dismissal broke away, piece by piece. What remained was sharper, stronger. I gave Amanda a small, icy smile. "They may see me as useless, but this wedding wouldn't even be happening without me. They wanted me invisible, but I'm the foundation under their feet." In that moment, my heartbreak transformed into something else entirely. No more tears. No more begging for a place at their table. I wasn't just attending this wedding. I was about to own it, on every level. The morning of the wedding, the air buzzed with excitement. Guests in elegant suits and gowns filled the lobby, their voices carrying over the sound of music playing softly in the background. I stood at the edge of it all, watching as Tyler, Chase, Barbara, and the rest of the family gathered together, laughing as though nothing in the world could touch them. It was the perfect moment. I stepped forward, heels clicking against the marble floor. The chatter around us dimmed as staff moved quickly to greet me. "Mrs. Rodriguez," one of the managers said warmly, bowing his head with respect. "Owner of the resort chain, it's an honor to see you here today." Every eye in the lobby turned toward me. I saw Barbara's face tighten with confusion, Chase's smirk falter, and Tyler, my husband, go pale. His jaw slackened as though the floor had been ripped out from under him. I met his gaze with calm, steady eyes. "Surprised to see me, Tyler?" My voice was even, not raised, but sharp enough to cut through the silence. "You told me I wasn't welcome at this wedding, that I wasn't family, but you failed to mention one small detail. This family celebration is taking place in my resort." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Guests whispered, craning their necks to look between me and the man who had dismissed me so easily. Tyler stuttered, trying to find words. Isabel. I held up a hand, silencing him. No. You had your chance to speak for me. You chose silence. You let your family call me names, belittle me, and treat me like I was nothing. You laughed with them when they mocked me. But today, I stand here as who I truly am. The woman you underestimated. The woman who built this empire. And the woman you thought you could erase. Chase stepped forward, scoffing. What does it matter? Owning some resort doesn't change who you are. You're still. Before he could finish, Amanda's voice rang out. She had appeared beside me, her face pale but determined. Don't, she snapped at him. Don't you dare speak to her like that. I know what you've been saying behind her back, Chase. I know what both of you, she turned her glare toward Tyler, have been saying. And it's disgusting. Chase's composure cracked. Amanda, you don't understand. But she did. She shook her head, stepping closer to me instead of him. I understand perfectly. You've been mocking her, calling her useless, when she's the reason this wedding even has a roof. And Isabel, Amanda turned to me with genuine respect in her eyes. You deserve better than all of this. The room was dead silent, all eyes fixed on us. I stood tall, my voice unwavering. You thought you could keep me out. But here I am, not as an outsider, but as the foundation you've been standing on all along. Tyler's face was drained of color. Chase's smirk was gone. And in that moment, I knew the tables had turned. The silence in the lobby didn't last long. Chase, red-faced and fuming, tried to laugh it off. This is ridiculous, he said loudly, waving a hand as though he could erase everything I had just revealed. Amanda, she's just trying to stir up drama on our wedding day. Don't let her get to you. Amanda's expression hardened. Drama? She repeated, her voice sharp enough to silence the whispers around us. The only drama here is you and Tyler mocking Isabel behind her back, treating her like she's worthless. Do you think that makes you look like a man, Chase? Because from where I'm standing, it makes you look pathetic. Chase's composure snapped. His voice rose, ugly and defensive. You're seriously going to take her side? Amanda, she's nothing. She got lucky with money, that's all. She doesn't belong in our family, and I've been saying that from the start. Gasps rippled through the guests. His mask was gone, his arrogance spilling out for everyone to see. Amanda's face went pale at first, but then her eyes flashed with certainty. She stepped back, shaking her head slowly. You just proved every warning she gave me was true. I can't marry a man who talks about people like that, let alone his own brother's wife. The entire room froze. Chase sputtered, reaching for her hand, but she pulled it away. It's over, she said firmly, her voice trembling but strong. This wedding is off. Barbara gasped, clutching her pearls, while relatives whispered frantically. Tyler, pale and sweating, rushed toward me like I was the only piece of this unraveling mess he could still control. Isabel, please, he whispered harshly, his voice desperate. Don't do this. Don't ruin everything. Let's just step aside, talk this out later. I turned to him slowly, my voice low but steady. Ruin everything? Tyler, you already ruined everything when you chose to betray me. When you let your brother and your family mock me while you stayed silent. You didn't lose me today. You lost me a long time ago. His face crumpled, but I felt nothing for him. No pity. No love. Just a hollow certainty that this was the end. Around us, the family's reputation was collapsing in real time. Guests were whispering, some recording the chaos on their phones. The polished image Barbara had always tried to project was cracking like glass under a hammer. And Chase, still shouting, was making it worse with every word. I didn't raise my voice again. I didn't need to. The truth had already done its work. Straightening my shoulders, I gave Amanda a supportive nod and turned toward the exit. This isn't my mess to clean up, I said quietly, more to myself than anyone else. They can deal with it on their own. And with that, I walked away calm, composed, and free. I had nothing left to prove. They had taken me for granted, and now they were left standing in the ruins of their own choices. The days after the ruined wedding unfolded like the calm after a storm. For Tyler and his family, it was chaos. Angry phone calls, frantic damage control, whispers about Chase's public humiliation. For me, it was clarity. I contacted my attorney the very next morning. The instructions were simple. File for divorce, make it clean, and make it final. Tyler had never bothered to look closely at our finances, always assuming I was the one leaning on him. He liked to play the role of the provider, puffing up his chest about his hard work, while dismissing anything I did as trivial. That arrogance was about to cost him everything. When the papers were served, I was told his face drained of color. He tried calling me once, twice, then a dozen times. Each voicemail was a desperate mix of apologies and anger. First he begged, then he scolded, then he begged again. I didn't respond. I had no reason to. The man who couldn't even defend me in front of his family wasn't worth another ounce of my energy. Financially, Tyler had nothing to stand on. The home we lived in, the cars we drove, even the joint accounts, most of it had been purchased with my money, under my name. The irony was almost poetic. The man who mocked me as just a housewife was now left with nothing but his own salary, stripped of the lifestyle he thought he owned. I didn't need revenge in the form of shouting or public shaming. My revenge was quiet, thorough, and permanent. Tyler had underestimated me so completely that he'd left himself defenseless. He walked into the marriage believing he had all the power, and he was leaving it exposed, embarrassed, and empty-handed. As for me, I felt lighter than I had in years. Signing those papers wasn't just ending a marriage. It was ending the version of myself that had settled for less, that had swallowed dismissals and endured silence in the name of keeping the peace. I spent a weekend at one of my own resorts, this time openly as Isabel Rodriguez, the woman I had always been but had kept hidden. The staff congratulated me, not for the money, not for the power, but for carrying myself with dignity through it all. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen for who I truly was. When I looked back, I didn't just see betrayal. I saw my own resilience, my own strength rising out of the ashes of what they tried to make me believe. Tyler and his family thought they could erase me, dismiss me, box me into a corner. Instead, I had walked out with my head high and my future wide open. I didn't just reclaim my dignity. I reminded myself of my worth. And that, more than anything they ever tried to take from me, was the victory I carried forward. Do you believe Isabel made the right choice by ending her marriage and walking away, or should she have given Tyler another chance to change? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd really like to hear your perspective. And if you enjoy stories filled with twists, betrayal, and powerful comebacks, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next one.